episode of the Deadlands. So, what are we going to be doing today? I don't know. I had some plans, and in a moment, I'm gonna kind of talk about those plans. But those plans didn't really turn out. Kind of failed. Um, but yeah, so I do have some ideas for this episode, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But what I've done in between episodes is complete this face or this side of the mushroom farm exterior. It's looking pretty cool. And yeah, that's really it on, this area. But yeah, it's looking really cool. It's not complete on the other side. But I'll probably just duplicate what I have on the other side to this side. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Over here, I tore down, the white tower that had here, and I reclaimed a bunch of this bone block, so that's nice. Um, I'm also kind of just waiting on vines to grow, so I can make more of the moss block variants. Moss is kind of slow to farm. Can't bone meal it, so you just have to let it grow. Over here at the Creeper Monument, I did start working on texturing the mound here, and stepping a bit of ways away, you can kind of see that the grays start fading really nicely into the stone. So I think, yeah, it looks really cool. I did some work at uh the 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 sugarcane farm. I just put up walls and put in some streams so I could turn on the rest of the system. I had it disconnected over here. That way I could still run this side and let it do its thing. But I got it all connected now, so it's all working. So cool. And what else? Oh, I turned the shulker farm back on, and that's because I want to tear down the farm at some point, and I just want to kind of continue stockpiling shulker shells. So if we go into the nether real quick, and then come over here, we can see inside the chest, you know, all these shulker boxes are filled with shulker shells. So I'm gonna have more than enough, probably forever. You know, if I ever use all of these shells, I'm gonna have like a huge mess. So yeah, I did a little bit of work over at the gold farm, just picking all the nuggets and making ingots and stuff. Don't really want to run the farm at the moment until I update, so I can start crafting the nuggets. Oh, that's oh, okay, never mind. There we go. That was weird. But yeah, so let's go back over here. Can I make it? Yeah. So I did have a plan for this episode, and that was to work on the storage system for the building, where I'm gonna store, a variety of different building materials. Um, but what I was trying to do wasn't really working, or wasn't that it wasn't going to work. It was just a super redundant system, and I realized that I was gonna put a lot more effort into designing it than was really necessary. So I kind of switched gears, and over here, a couple episodes ago, I mentioned I wanted to maybe put a super smelter in like along this long strip of road, right? So in order to fuel this super smelter, I'm gonna need fuel, and probably the best way to get fuel is either, well, I don't know, but we could use kelp and stuff. But to get a lot of kelp, we'll probably need to bone meal stuff, and yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is build or design a moss farm so we can produce a lot more bone meal than what the sugarcane farm can produce. We'll probably mostly use the moss farm to fuel the system here, or at least help to create the fuel, to generate the fuel. Yeah, something like that. But Yeah, I think that's what we're going to focus on. Okay, so I've been working for a couple days figuring this thing out, and yeah, I've got a more final design over there that we'll get to in a moment. But over here, I've got kind of my ideas that I was sketching out. I had to first remind myself how to generate stone and stuff, so we did that. Over here, I was just trying to figure out how I wanted to configure the pistons or like how I wanted to move the stone and stuff. So right here we have a little module. So if I output the lava, you can see that the stone generates, and then it just powers stuff and pushes the stone out. So that's cool. Over here we just have a bigger version of it. But this version actually breaks. So you can see that these pistons, they get butted, and actually in this configuration, I think it would still work. It's not broken, but I can reset the pistons like that. But that's not something I want to be doing with the farm running. So I decided to reconfigure the farm. So over here, we actually have something that's working a little bit better. So if I get bone meal going, I can actually get stuff working here. So yeah, just turn that off, and so you can see that the stone isn't like all turning into moss. So that was like the next thing I had to figure out, and you know, most of the time people just use water, so that's what I did. And here, this is mostly a working system, but it doesn't have a clock, so we kind of just, I am the clock. So every time I flip the lever, like here, pushes one row of stone out, and that breaks the moss that's here, and then we have the water that washes everything down there. So we can throw the rest, I guess. So cool. I have an almost working system, and if you can't tell, this one's 5 blocks wide. I think I decided, is this still 5 blocks? Yeah, this is 5 blocks. But this is a more complete system, so it has a clock. We can actually see it working. It's even composting whatever into bone meal. So we'll turn that off. And so after I put this together, I decided to go back to a 7 wide system. And that's what I've got over here. And it's basically the same. But this one actually includes a bus line that will turn off the system whenever this hopper runs out. So you kind of see that torch. That torch will turn on when I run out. So every module, it can turn on this bus line and turn off the system. So every module will turn off, even if one is empty, which is good. So yeah, it'll turn off the system, and then it will use these canals to send bone meal down the system and replenish. So that's pretty cool. Now the turn off switch is a little weird. So yeah, as you saw, you get down to, less than 2 stacks, and what it's doing is it's taking this power level and comparing it to this guy. So if it drops below 6, it will then turn that torch off, right? Or no, it turns it on. Yeah, it turns it on, and then this will lock the clock that I've got over there, right? So let's put that bone meal back. Turns back off. And I needed like a pass-through system so that if, say, this module were to turn off, it needs to be able to pass down the bus line and, turn the system off. So I get a lever, you can actually see that. And we'll go to here. So if this module runs out of bone meal, it will do something like this. It'll turn that off, turning the piston off, and it disconnects the other modules. So now that the power level here is 0, so that's less than the 6 that's here, actually turns the torch on, and it just does the same thing for every piston. So it disconnects every module, and then it locks the system. So yeah, this is pretty cool. Really, this bus line isn't really meant to do much other than protect the farm from breaking. So if a module were to run out of bone meal, I can just turn off the system automatically and replenish the bone meal until it's, back to full. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, this is basically in a final state where I can probably go get it built. Just run it for a moment. Kind of cool. But yeah, it's in a state where it's all clean. It's looking nice. And I have plenty of space down here if I need to add anything. Because one thing I'd like to do is maybe, so every time the pistons activate here, it only pushes one row of stone out. And I'd like it to maybe push out another block or two, another 2 rows. That way I think I could maybe make my bone meal usage a little more efficient. Because right now I don't know how much bone meal this is actually going to produce. It needs to be able to produce enough to keep the farm stocked, plus whatever I want to store for my own use, right? So, but yeah, it's a pretty large system. I don't know where I'm going to build it at the moment, but I can build it, so yeah, I think that's probably the next thing I'm going to do is just find a spot to put it and then build it. Alright, so I'm in a bit of a conundrum. I don't know where to put this thing. It's massive, and I don't really have a good spot for it. I thought it would look cool, centered on the road here. However, a couple things. It would be blocking the location where I kind of want to put a super smelter at some point. It's also crossing over the water, and at some point I think I'd like to maybe widen this river just so I can connect that side to this side. And yeah. It's also kind of just big and bulky, and I'm not sure if I want to design an exterior for it, so I think an interior. Yeah, I think I'd rather just do an interior on this. So I've kind of come up with a solution. I think what I'll do is just put it underground, and I went into free cam and I was just flying around and looking and stuff. And I think just below the mushroom farm here, there's a good amount of space that I can dig out and build the farm. So yeah, and I think it'll be kind of handy because I could maybe just take enough bone meal to fill this up, so I wouldn't even have to manually build the system. So I think that would be nice. Um, so yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. So cool. All right, so farm is mostly done. There's still a few things we need to add to it, but we can do that in the future. We don't have to do it now. But yeah, so at the moment, I am thinking what we're going to do is take all the resources, that's coming off of this guy, and we're going to send it down this line. And once we get to the end, quite a trek from the other end. I think it's about 112 blocks long. But yeah, once everything comes down to the end, we're going to compost it, and I think I'm going to have like a loop, and everything's just going to kind of go in a loop until it can make its way into a hopper, and then it's going to get composted. And then we're going to send the majority of that bone meal down the canals here. And I'm not sure if going all the way down here will be efficient. I may have to break it up in half. I think one, two, three, four. So maybe around here we have like a canal or like a some water going this way and some water going that way, and we have bone meal being dispensed in both directions. But we'll see. I'm probably gonna do some more work and creative to figure out a lot of this. But yeah, pretty cool. I haven't really been able to test it, or I don't really want to test it right now, just because I have all the pistons here. They're locked, so they're not gonna do anything. That's fine. But I really don't want to spend the bone meal that I do have stocked in here. So I had to basically go through all of my bone meal just to get it stocked up. So I hope this will produce enough bone meal to keep itself running and, to keep in stock as well, because it would be quite pointless if I couldn't use it. If it's only supplying itself, then it's pointless. But yeah, this hole took me a while to dig. I did have to, this is my zombie grinder that I built, I think, in the first episode. That was forever ago. But yeah, I had to turn it off because, it's over here. I dug into it, so where am I? It's over there. Alright, so this is where I'm going to leave off this episode. I think we're making good progress on this farm. Though I can't run it right now. Not in a state that it can safely run without doing something weird. But yeah, I think in the next couple of episodes, we're gonna try to get this operational, just so we can try to get some stuff supplied, like farms and stuff. I think that'd be cool. All right, so if you've made it to this part in the episode, I hope you enjoyed. I did. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Bye bye.